Yo, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I want to talk a little bit about the Portal game mode for Battlefield 2042, why Portal was really such a big failure, and what I would like to see DICE do with the next game, and specifically why I really think, at least in my eyes, they absolutely need to have a server browser. Before we get started, as always guys, if you do enjoy watching the content here on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate the support. I think right now we are about 69 subscribers, in fact exactly, from 49,000, and after that it's only 1,000 more until the big 50. So if we can hit 49k with this video, that would be absolutely amazing. And as always, go and hit me up over on Twitter or X, Discord. Follow me on Twitch as well, we're streaming 3 times a week there, so yeah, thank you guys so much for that. So we're going to start this dissection of the Portal game mode by going all the way back to when the game first released back in 2021. The game launched, and what happened? People started to make those good old XP farming servers, trying to game the system and eke out every single little bit of XP that they could by making as farmable of a game mode as possible. And surprisingly, DICE apparently didn't have the foresight to see that this would be a problem, so therefore they hadn't put any kind of measures in place to combat this. So what they did is basically reduce the amount of XP you could get in Portal mode, in every single Portal mode, by, I think it was like 50%. They really cut down the XP, and of course when a brand new Battlefield game releases, what do you want to do, right? You want to rank up, you want to unlock the weapons, you want to unlock attachments, you want to get your hands on the game's contents. So instantly there, that was like a big sign over the top of Portal that said, hey, don't bother coming here because you won't get any XP. Now secondly, I think we can all agree here on saying that we've seen way less support for the Portal mode in Battlefield 2042 than any of us expected. When they showed off those original maps, we got 2 maps from 1942, we got 2 maps from Bad Company 2, and 2 maps from Battlefield 3. I thought that was just going to be the beginning. I was dreaming about getting some maps from Battlefield 4, from Battlefield 2142, Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5, etc. The list goes on. I honestly thought that we would be getting at least 1 or 2 maps with every single season. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten one single additional map, which is a really big letdown because whenever I play Conquest 64, some of my favorite maps to play in there are maps like Valparaiso, Arica Harbor, No Shore Canals, Caspian Border, right? Those old throwbacks, and even 2 of those maps from 1942 basically don't play well at all. They're pretty terrible. You know, the desert one, I can't even remember the name. Is it Alamein or something like that? It's basically like Silk Road from Battlefield 4. It's way too wide open. You know, it kind of feels like Hourglass, right? You just trek across the desert. So DICE, realizing this, decided to take both of those maps out of those rotations, and honestly you very rarely see them in any Portal game modes at all. So that is pretty much the situation that we find ourselves in terms of support from DICE. Really, it's non-existent, and they already gimped the Portal mode from the beginning of the game, and ever since then they seem to have this back and forth fight between the players who want to be able to play games and get full XP, and those who just want to farm experience in modes that are made to do exactly that. Now, I touched on this next point in my stream yesterday, and I actually put out a video on Twitter as well, but I just wanted to reiterate it here. And I don't know if you've ever bothered to go into Portal and go in the server browser there, but there is very little choice of interesting game modes to play outside of various ways to farm XP, large game modes with 10,000%, you know, damage so that you can kill people faster, so that you can get XP faster, work your way through the battle pass faster, etc, etc. And if it isn't some of those servers, then it's like a milsim, you know, real war, hardcore Battlefield experience, which honestly I've never really understood. You know, if I want to play like a realistic shooter game, I'm going to go and play Squad, I'm going to go and play Hell Let Loose. One of those games like that, a lot of players seem to want to turn Battlefield into something it isn't. So that's pretty much the scope of things, and it's a sad situation because I've many times thought, you know, I would really like to create my own Portal server, maybe make Battlefield 2042 but with a few little tweaks to the rules, make it my own sort of custom version, maybe tweak around with the vehicle timers, similar things like you saw people do with the server browser and with custom servers in past Battlefield games. Nothing too crazy, nothing too insane, but then I just thought to myself, wait a minute, what's the point? If I make a server, nobody's going to join it anyway. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm boasting here, but This is me speaking as a content creator. So, you know, for somebody else out there who doesn't have any kind of community behind them, what chance do they have of making a custom game and having somebody join it? Like, quite literally. The system is just absolutely flooded by XP farm servers, and you can't find any of the decent stuff that is there because people either can't be bothered to make it because they know that nobody will join, or if they have hosted a server, it's buried so low and behind so much filth that you really can't get to it. But that isn't to say that there aren't people out there who make some really fantastic Portal modes. Pete the Bull, Reaps, No Name's Aim Trainer, of course. You know, just to name a couple of guys here, I've covered multiple modes that they've made before, predominantly because I would like to shine a light on those modes and let them be in the spotlight as much as I can put them there, so that you guys can utilize those modes and realize that there are some things in Portal that are worthwhile using, and it's not just all about XP farms. But with the server browser being so oversaturated with XP farm servers the way it is right now, there is just no incentive to spend your time making an interesting mode and hosting it when nobody's even going to be able to find it. I also think the UI needs a lot of work. I mean, it's no secret that Battlefield 2042's UI in general was, I mean, it still is pretty bad. It was absolutely terrible. Terrible when the game released. It has seen some improvements. I do think DICE are doing a good job on that, and whatever they've been given to work with has really been probably a nightmare for them, I'm sure. But the Portal UI, the search functionality, the information that's displayed to you when you're browsing the servers is extremely rudimentary if you compare it to any of the past Battlefield games. You can't click on a server the same way you used to be able to and like see all of the players that are in the server, see the maps and the rotation, and not just the next map that's coming up, but the map after that and the map after that. So you can say, hey, this server's got like 3-4 maps in a row that I really like. I'm going to jump in there and play for the evening. And then we have to remember there are also several things that have been added with Battlefield 2042 that have really changed up the game. So one of those things is AI bots. That has really opened the door to people who want to farm XP. Without the AI there, they would be extremely limited and they'd have to actually get real players in there to take part in the farming. But, you know, on the other hand, don't underestimate people. They will find ways. We've seen so many ridiculous farm servers. There's one where you spawn into a helicopter and there are 3 flags and you just fly around in a circle and continually cap flags, and then you have people in helis on the enemy team taking the flags back off of you, so you cap the flag from them and they cap the flag from you. We've had other ones where you'll have literally 100 people in a server shooting LMGs up in the sky, throwing down ammo bags, and basically just scoring XP by resupplying their teammates with ammo. Yeah. Lots of fun. But furthermore, we also have live service in this game. We have seasons, and as such, we get free content, we get free weapons, which is great, but the bad side is that DICE are putting them quite deep, in some cases, into the season passes, and making players grind their way to them, and of course, most egregiously in the current season right now, Season 6. So that is further encouraging players to spend their time grinding XP in the most efficient way possible, which often is going into these Portal servers and joining one of these XP farms. We didn't have that problem before. Back when we had like the premium system, you would just buy an expansion, and sure, you still had to unlock the weapons, you would get an assignment, but it was pretty easy. It was like, you know, 30 kills with an assault rifle and 5 kills with C5, for example. So you could just do that in a regular game, pretty similar to how you would do your weekly missions, and then you unlock one of the new weapons for that expansion. There was no pressure to grind it out ASAP and sort of feel like you almost have to take part in these XP farm servers. Now, obviously, I'm almost certain it is too late to fix this for Battlefield 2042. I'm making this video with the purpose of looking to the next game and hoping that DICE realize that putting in a server browser, having that be front and center and the main way that you join a game for Battlefield, just like we used to have in the good old days, may not be a bad decision. You can have a matchmaking system in there, right? I get it, you're a new player, you jump in, you don't know what all these things in the server name means, you don't know what fast vehicle spawn is, you don't know what extra damage is, you just want to play a game of Conquest. Well, then you can have a matchmaking system that says Conquest 64, right? You click that button, and what it's going to do is backfill one of the Conquest 64 servers from the server browser. Not only is it going to find that player a game, but it's also going to help little Jimmy, who's trying to run a server of his own over here, fill his server. Instead, what we currently have are DICE official servers, but they're all invisible, right? They're all behind the scenes under the matchmaking system where they can't be accessed. You can't see what map is coming next to choose whether or not you want to join that server. You can't see the ticket count so that you know, oh, okay, this game is right at the end, I'm going to join a different server. You can't see any of that stuff. I do actually think they could go ahead right now and implement some DICE official servers straight into the Portal browser, and maybe they could even rig it so when you click on matchmaking, those servers get filled up, because that would also encourage people to head over to Portal and go and look at the other game modes that are on offer there. I do think it's incredibly important. Not only is a server browser important for finding you a game, but it's also important for building a community. You know, you don't necessarily have to have a Platoon or a Discord server or a YouTube channel or whatever it is. Sometimes it's enough to have Little Jimmy's Conquest 64, 24/7, you know, redacted or whatever you want to have, Conquest server, and sometimes you're going to find players coming back to that server day in, day out, again and again. They get to know people in the server, and maybe today you're playing with that guy in your squad, maybe tomorrow he's on the enemy team. It just makes for an interesting dynamic. I really think community and socializing is actually one of the most important things about playing games online, at least for me. That is a big part of it. That's why I game. And in terms of online interaction, Battlefield 2042 has some of the worst out of all of the Battlefield games. Only recently have we gotten like squad management tools and better party tools and things like that so you can play with your friends, but in terms of meeting other random people within a server, within some sort of a community, it's very, very difficult to do in this game. I also certainly see the irony in DICE removing the redacted playlist and then adding it back in again this week after everybody complained, and then thinking about a server browser. How many 24/7 redacted only servers do you think we would have right now if there was a server browser in the game? A proper server browser, I mean. It doesn't bear thinking about, right? Same thing with us having to compete, you know, between Conquest 128 and Conquest 64. We couldn't have both for like the longest time. If we would have had a server browser, those two would have been there in abundance from the very beginning. So honestly, I think for the next game, this can definitely work. DICE seem to be absolutely fixated at the moment if we look at past Battlefield releases with following trends. The way I see it, the gaming world seems to be getting caught up in nostalgia. We see lots of remasters of games releasing that do incredibly well, and the main one, and I would argue probably the most successful one in terms of revenue, has been World of Warcraft Classic. Do you know what happened with World of Warcraft? The entire community started screaming that they wanted to play World of Warcraft the way it was back in 2004 when the game originally released. And you know what Blizzard said? They said, you think you want to play it like that, but you don't. It's just nostalgia speaking. You're looking at the game through rose-tinted glasses. It actually was incredibly clunky and not a great experience. And what happened is some community members sparked up a server of their own that was running the older game. And once Blizzard then saw that there was major interest for that, well, of course, they made these community members shut down that server who were running it for free of charge, and then they made their own version of the game, started charging people for it, of course, microtransactions and all the rest of it, and now World of Warcraft Classic is absolutely massive. So I think when people say, hey DICE, why don't you remaster Battlefield 3? Why don't you remaster Battlefield 4? DICE probably scoff and say, oh, you think you want to play that game, you know, but you don't really. And they most likely look at server browsers the same way. Server browsers are a thing of the past. Now it's all about matchmakers and skill-based matchmaking. God forbid that ever makes it into Battlefield. But have they ever stopped to consider that maybe if they were the only new AAA shooter that were actually going back to the old ways of just using a server browser with, you know, a matchmaking system tied into that server browser instead of just matchmaking, that may actually be a selling point and it may attract new players. I am going to leave it at that for today, guys. Leave me your comments down below. What do you think about having a server browser in the next game? What do you think about the Portal mode? Do you ever use Portal? Do you just completely ignore it? Leave me your comments below and I will get back to as many of you as I can. Hit up that like button below, that always helps out with the algorithm, and subscribe to the channel, of course, if you enjoy the Battlefield content here. Special thank you to my members and Twitch subs for their additional support. Have a good one, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.